Welcome to the inaugural podcast of Keeping It WV. What we do at Keeping WV is we're going to talk to local people, local business owners about stuff that West Virginia holds near and dear to them. And that brings us to today with our first episode of Camping Conversations with Tim Senic here at Roy's RV. Tim, how's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. How's things going around here?
Good. Weather's been a little trying the last few weeks, but the forecast looks good and getting a lot of people interested coming in, shopping, getting ready for what they want to do this summer. And this is usually about the most exciting time of year for us because it's that build up to where everybody is making their plans on their camping and their trips, and whether they're going to be camping in the local campgrounds or they got trips to Disney they're going to do this summer. It's pretty exciting for us. The fall things slow down and we do a lot of service, and it's just kind of like fall is. It's just everything kind of dying down, but now we're at the time where everything's building up, so it's an exciting time for us around here.
Typical West Virginia weather, right? It's you come into springtime and it starts getting mushy, and everybody's been cooped up all summer, all winter long, and they're ready to get out and about and go see the outdoors a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I wanted to talk about a little bit is kind of like the history of Roy's. You wasn't always in this beautiful facility here. And this is what, the 50th year or 51st year?
51st.
The 51st year.
Yes.
So you've been in business 51 years.
51 years. Roger, Mr. Roy, he started this business back in 1971 in a little town of Harmon, which is about 25 miles from here. He really wasn't even looking to be in the RV business at the time. He was working as a butcher at his dad's grocery store there in Harmon. And he's always been that business-minded guy.
Right.
And but he wanted to camp, so he bought him a little camper, and he brought it to Harmon, and he parked it out behind his dad's grocery store, just to place to put it. Mm-hmm. And a few days later, he had a guy stopping in and start asking him about it, ask him how much it was. And he wanted one too, so Roger sold it to him. So, okay, so he bought him another one. Well, long story short, he sold it. And that's when the light bulb, I reckon, came on. So he got a little load of, I think, 6. We've got an old picture, an old black and white picture of the units that come in, the very first load there at the store. And he started selling them right behind his dad's store. Of course, that grew, and he had to find some different property. So he moved just about 100 yards up the street, a piece of property he rented from one of his good friends, and started that little lot in Harmon. And he built it all through the 70s and the 80s. And then in the 90s is when I started working over there, and it was still growing pretty good. Mm-hmm. But about the mid-90s, it got to the point we couldn't use that little lot anymore. It was only 2 acres. And we were selling, the last year we were in Harmon, which was 1999, I believe, we sold close to 200 campers off that little acre-and-a-half lot, and we were renting land all over town. The whole town looked like a camper dealership. We had so many around my house and on the river bottom there in Harmon. When you come into Harmon, that's what you see. You look down into the river bottom.
Right.
We had so many campers lined up around my house where we were storing them that people would come on Sundays. They'd come knock on the door and just, like they was at the business. I'd like to look at some campers. They thought they were there because campers were scattered throughout the town. But we decided we needed to move, and we found this location, which was a wonderful location, and we came in here in the year 2000, got everything really up and running in 01, and so we're in our 21st year here. It doesn't seem like it, but it's been that long.
Blink, man, it's over. So for most people that don't know where Harmon is one of the typical West Virginia small towns. If you blink, you miss it. Absolutely. If you're driving on the way to Senic or Canaan Valley from Elkins, it's a blip on the screen, right? So to run through something like that out of the little town of Harmon is pretty impressive, because it's not like it is right here. Right here, you're on the 5 lane. There's people who drive by this. Your traffic is tremendous over here.
There's a big difference. In Harmon, we didn't have near the traffic. We had a small facility. We had a little mobile office, a little double wide office. Had been there for a long time. We had basically about 5 employees, I started working in Roger's repair shop, and then I went out and he has a manufactured housing business also. So for a year or two, I went out and set houses with his crew, and then I come back to the RV side, got into the sales side. But, it's a town, there's only 80 people in that town of Harmon, and it's a good ways. I mean, you got to cross 3 more mountains once you get to Elkins to get over there. But we had people coming from Morgantown and Fairmont and Parkersburg, driving clear to Elkins and then cross those 3 mountains to come over there and buy from us. And when we started really in the late 90s, when we started really rolling the campers out, like I say, there was only 5 of us, and we all had 5 job titles. I mean, I remember Roxy. There's a girl named Roxy that worked for us over there, and she still works in and out here. She's worked here for years and years, and then she was off for a few years. She'll come back and work. But she was, at one time, she was our parts store manager. She was our receptionist. She was our warranty person. She helped me put on truck caps. We sold tons of truck caps over there. I mean, we'd put on, 300 truck caps a year. So I was selling and doing the financing, installing truck caps, and Roxy, she'd be right out there with me setting these truck caps on. She knew how to do it, she'd done enough of them.
Right.
She'd be out mowing grass, and I'd go over and weed eat. I mean, it was such a neat time because there was just a few of us there, and we did, I think that's why people loved us, because we were just truly just doing 10 different jobs, but loved it. I mean, no complaints, no one ever complained. And, but we just outgrew it. We had to move. Not that we really wanted to. We liked that little side of the county, but we knew we had to move, and we came in here, and it's worked out great.
Yeah, I think the greatest thing about that is, I think people nowadays, they want to buy from somebody they know, right? You're the same guy that you can walk downtown Elkins and run into you. You could be sitting at one of the restaurants or something downtown, and they see you. It's not like you're not the man behind the Wizard of Oz type thing, right? Where don't look behind the curtain, right? I mean, you're always there.
I'm just an old farm boy. I grew up on a farm, actually just almost exactly in between here and Harmon, and I went to school in Harmon. I grew up on our farm there, hunting and fishing and making hay and taking care of the cattle, and my cousin Shane that works here. We did a lot of farming, and through all this time of growing that business in Harmon and the success we've had here, I'm still just an old farm boy, and then I think I relate well to the people that come in that's got families that they need to be in a certain price point, or they got certain needs, and we just, all of us here, we relate to that because pretty much everyone that works here, we got a lot of farm people here, worked on farms, and some that still do, and we're just your genuine average people.
Yeah, well, like you say, it goes to the point of where people are going to travel. If they want, they'll travel to buy a camper. Great deals, great selection. I mean, heck, I was looking out on your lot. It looked like you got 200 or 300 campers is what it looks like out there. So the selection, you went from 6 or 7, 10, 15, 20 to Harmon. Now you're over here with hundreds of them of what it looks like. If you look on your lot, how big is your lot actually?
What we're using is about pushing 8 acres. I mean, we've got a total of, my goodness, we got 11 acres down here. We got another 4, I think, up on top of the hill here, where we put a lot of our service units and our overflow. Then we own another piece of property about a few hundred yards up the road at the old Oak Ridge truck repair business, okay. And there's another 6 or 7 acres total there. So I mean, we got a lot of acreage, but we're using our main sales lot. We're using about 8 acres.
So you're like 4 times the size you was when you was in.
I think we have more land. We laugh about this sometimes, but I really think we have more land under roof here than we had land all in Harmon. I mean, it's. I go over there a lot. I was over there this past Sunday, and every time I drive by it, I can't figure out how we did it. At the time, it's just how you did it.
Right.
But to have, we had 50, 60 campers on that lot. And we've done service repair. We had 2 shops that we'd built on there. We had we stocked 50 to 100 truck caps. We sold bed liners. And to do all that off that little facility, I just sit back when I'm over there. I'll walk around on that lot sometimes and just remember what we were doing. And it's just amazing how we did and how much business we did off of that property. And it was all, I mean, Mr. Roy built a great reputation for us. I mean, he's one of those guys that there's no one, and I I've never met anyone like him, and there's no one I've ever run into that knows Roger. When you talk about him or bring his name up, everybody, they're always, their reaction is, he's such a nice man. I've never heard any employee ever say nothing bad about him, anyone in the community. I mean, he's one in a million.
That's a rare thing to find anymore, you know.
It is.
Someone that's genuine, that has actually spent time in the community, that helps the community, and, you know, it's rare to find that. Most people nowadays aren't like that, right?
No, and he laid the groundwork for all this. I mean, you know, he's not as involved as he used to be in it, but he's over here a few times a week. We still lean on him for a lot of, he's a wealth of knowledge, and he's just such a good, even-headed person. There's no situation that you can get in that he's always the person you want to go and talk to. No matter how bad a situation is, how maybe your day was bad that day, you go and talk to Roger, you always feel better. You know, and he's the reason that, you know, we just have to continue what he built. Right. You know, what he built in the 70s and the 80s and into the 90s. When we moved over here, it wasn't reinventing the wheel. It was just bringing that same mentality that he had built in Harmon and bringing it and putting it on a bigger property.
Right, and easier access.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, I've pulled a camper up over that hill a couple times in Harmon, and it's a poke. Let's just put it that way. You got the 5-lane here. You just pull off the 5-lane, you're good to go. Yeah. But it sounds like he laid a great foundation for you guys, and that's awesome. You know, and you were talking about campers. The one thing that I noticed, you said camper tops, right? How many people? Like, is there a lot of campers top sales anymore? You look, I drive, you know, past trucks all the time, and there's very rare do you see camper tops on trucks. I forgot all about them until you brought it back up. Yeah. I mean,
there's not. We haven't sold camper tops here in 10, 12 years. It used to be with the trucks, there was basically 3 or 4 bed sizes and a few colors, and people didn't care if they had a red truck, if they had a black cap on it. But things changed through the 2000s. There was so many different, just Ford alone had like 5 different beds.
What I was leading to is the evolution of camping, the stuff that has changed, the technology and stuff that's changed with the camping business, or the campers, not just the camping business. I mean, not that it's not changed too, but the campers themselves. I remember as a kid, we had a Coleman pop-up. You had to pump that. You had to pump it to get the pressure so you could get some water out, and then it only lasted like 2 or 3 seconds. You pump your arms to death now, you know. But now it's just it's like your home. I mean, they've changed. It's almost like an extension of your house.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
If it used to be a day where they'd buy a truck cap and throw a mattress in the back and climb in there and sleep in the back of the truck. Then they'd move to a pop-up, which was, you know, a good step up. Mm-hmm. And fold downs, you know, the pop-up fold downs, they were a good market for quite a while back. And we was in our little lot in Harmon one year. I think we sold 75 pop-ups off that little lot in Harmon. That was back when Coleman was still in business, and they were just such a wonderful company. But things just kept evolving, and people's focus became more on the full pull-behind trailers. Mm-hmm. Started making them smaller and lighter. They went through a section where they, you know, back in the mid-2000s, where they did what they called hybrids. They were a full box trailer, but had the fold-out 10 ends on the end, mm-hmm. and that did okay for a while. But then people decided they didn't want to fool with those 10 ends because mm-hmm. you know there's you got to dry them before you put them in if they're wet, and mm-hmm. so the pop-ups, even though there is a small market still out there for them, it has turned into the whole camping thing has just changed so much to where it's you got people that still go camp at the lake. Mm-hmm. It's people that go to Disney World. Mm-hmm. You got people who park them permanent in the campsites and use them as their weekend getaway with their friends, and they all kind of try to get spots together. Then you got people who just go through the state parks. Mm-hmm. And we've got customers that travel the entire country that come back and tell us stories about going out through Yellowstone and all out through the West. And it's amazing what you can use them for. We got people that live out of them and work out of them. So there's multiple uses for one.
Yeah, like I tell everybody this. I said the evolution of camping, right? So I think that my family, when my kids were young, 1, 2 years old, we did the tent thing. You know, we were camping in a tent, and then we got to the point where we have 2 kids and we're in a tent, and it starts raining on you. You get mad, right? I'm not getting wet anymore. I'm tired. That's the one thing I hate when I go camping. My wife laughs all the time because I hate getting wet. Yeah. Right? I always make sure that I got canopies and the awning and all that stuff. So then we went to a pop-up, and it was nice. So you had air conditioning, you had a heater if you got cold, and stuff like that. And then we went to a bigger camper like you were talking about with the fold outs, the hybrid. And then the kids got a little older and we got tired of traveling all over the place, so we parked it in the camp spot. But the problem with that was it's a different type of person that wants to buy that camper. So when I sold it, I had a lot of people say, oh, I like this, and then they seen the fold outs, they're like, I want to go with the other, right? So then we got rid of it, and so now we're fostering 2 little kids now. So we got back into the camp and we bought a pop-up again, and we like to travel. We like to travel and go into different state parks because of that. You know, but now here's the evolution, right? Now the pop-ups, not only do they have air conditioning, but we got a shower in our pop-up. We've got a commode in our pop-up, you know. So it's all changing, and I think that people want to be outside, but they still want to have those creature comforts that they got. And looking at the campers you got here on the lot, I mean, shoot, there's a couple that have recliners in them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know. So I mean, it's just it's funny to see how things have evolved, and how pretty much if there's something that you have at home that you like, there's a camper for you that has that in it.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've seen some of them that big flat screen TVs in them.
Yeah.
You know, we had to worry about the little TV VCR combo. That's how long ago that was.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no,
And that's what you used in the camp, you put it in there, but now it's amazing, right?
the RV manufacturers have been pretty good at picking up on where this whole thing's going and what people want. Now they're still, you can buy your basic camper. You know, they'll make them clear down to 15 feet, you know, just a box with, you still got a lot of amenities. If you go back 20 years ago, it would have been a luxury camper. But they still, you know, it's a basic, you know, your 15-foot box, and it's got, you know, a little place to set your television, and it's going to have your air conditioning in it, and a nice place to get in and out of, all the way up to your big high-end luxury fifth wheels that pretty much now you can just sit down with your little iPad and, you know, run your slides out and turn stuff on. And I mean, there's a broad mix. There's something out there for everyone.
There's no cranking those jacks up anymore, right?
The awnings, you know, the awnings was always, I never did like those awnings. You had a little awning key, and you had to reach up and unlock the latch and pull it out. And then if wind was coming, you had to try to run it back up. The new ones all are power awnings. You just go in, hit a button, and out your awning comes and runs back in. They've came a long ways. You know, I used to work in the repair shop over in Harmon, so when I'm around them, it's like they've came a long ways technology-wise, but still they're basically just a movable little portable house, and they haven't really changed that much. The systems, how they do the roofs and their walls, is about the same as what they used back then. There's a lot more technology, and they're prettier, and they are. There's some you can go in that's, a lot of people tell us their camper's nicer than their house, you know. And some people want that, and then you got the ones that don't. They want to still go out and feel like, you know, they're kind of roughing it. That's part of it, and we try to keep a good mix for everybody.
The one thing I like about campers is there's no wasted space. Any space that would be a hollow space is storage.
Yeah.
You pick up the seats. You pick up the seats on the couch. There's storage under them.
They've even went now. They're realizing that, you know, your pets, you know, or your important to some people is their kids. You know, I mean, their pets go everywhere.
Absolutely.
You know, and so there's a lot of neat features going in them now for the pets. Places for the dogs to sleep. Cats, it don't matter, you know, places for the food bowls. There's some trays you can pull out that's got built-in food bowls for the cats and the dogs. And that's become a big part of camping as you go out and you see how many people are bringing their pets with them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and the kids love that, and it's a really neat experience to watch people out there enjoying it. And the people that have never camped, a lot of people tell me, especially during this whole COVID thing, that people had never really went out and camped, but they didn't have anything else they could go do, so they'd go camping with their buddies and absolutely fall in love with it. They just never realized how nice the camping resorts are and the pools, and the kids can go run and go to the pool and go play mini putt-putt golf or go down to the river, and the parents can sit and relax and drink their coffee and talk, and they just didn't realize it. So there's just so many new people coming in that never thought about camping that are now out full-time camping.
But you tell someone, you know, before COVID, right? Because I mean, I think that changed mentalities of a lot of people. But before COVID, you said, I'm going camping. They're like, I'm not going camping, out in the cold and this, that, and the other. And then you start telling them, like we went to Pipestem. I don't know if you've ever been to Pipestem State Park. That place has everything. I mean, they've got zip lines. They've got golf courses on the. I mean, it's you name it, they've got it pretty much. So I mean, you go to this, like you said, you go to some of these campgrounds now. I mean, shoot, there's everything that you would. It's like it's the beach without the sand, right? So you go to the lake, but you don't have the sand. There's a water park down. They got those blow up toys and stuff that they got on the lake, and you go down there, and it's just it's one of them that you got it's a 4-hour drive. It's not an easy drive to get there, but it's still outdoors. It's still West Virginia. It's still, a vacation without having to worry about, a million people.
Right, and you don't have to go that far.
Right.
And we have a lot of local people that we're fortunate to have some of the nicest campgrounds in the state just right here around us.
Oh, absolutely.
You can go about 6 miles any direction and run into some really nice campgrounds. But we got people who live right here in Elkins that keep their campers parked permanent just at one of the campgrounds 6 or 8 miles out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do on the weekends. They don't have to drive 3 or 4 hours. They keep it there permanent so they don't have to get there and set up. They don't even have a tow vehicle. They have it sitting out there that any weekend or every weekend they can go out there and enjoy, Friday through Sunday, go back to work, looking forward to going back out the next weekend. It's like a vacation every week.
Yeah, there's a joke that my wife and because we camp with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law a lot, and the joke that we have is there's a shirt actually that they made, and it's so true. It says, "I'm going to apologize for what I said while we were setting up camp." Because there's so many. You sit and you set up camp and you sit and you listen and you hear the frustration in the guy that's driving and the guy and typically I don't want to say it's that way, but typically it's the guy driving and the wife back there telling him come on back and guiding them, and then the next thing you know it's like, just let me park the car. Just let me park it. You go do your thing. I can't see you. You're standing in my blind spot.
Yeah. Well, as long as I've done this, I've heard some really good stories. There's no doubt I've heard some stories. But, today's campers, they're so user-friendly. There's so many, power tongue jacks, power everything. They're kind of, it's pretty hard to mess it up.
Yeah.
You got cameras everywhere on them now, so it's way easier to back them in. But yeah, over the last 20 some odd years, I've heard some very, very funny stories of people setting up, and a lot of first-time buyers, haven't got everything quite figured out yet. So you hear some funny stories there. We do our very best to educate everyone when they're here, whether they have had a camper or not. But we do take extra time for our first-time buyers to really try to walk them through everything and how it works. But there's no way you can take all of that in an hour, And so they'll call us and they'll have some funny. There's no dumb questions. We always say that,
Yeah.
But we do. Well, they'll come back from their first camping trip, and it's always funny hearing the husband or the wife telling a story. And most people take them out and never have an issue. But
right? Yeah.
You forget. It's just it's a very fun conversation, always from their first trip.
I always make the comment that even though our state parks are kind of off the beaten path, right? You're still close to some place. Whenever we go camping, we set camp up, and then what do? We go shopping. You go to the local grocery store and you get your food. That way you're not carrying it with you, right? And I always say a Walmart's not too far away, that if there's something we forgot, there's something we can always, we can always go get it. But the camera thing, you mentioned the camera thing, that is a game changer. Because when you're backing up a camper and you can see on the other side of that camper with a camera, that's a game changer. You can put the camper almost exactly where you want it.
Yeah.
But
they do now. They've got cameras you can put anywhere. I mean, they'll come with a camera on the back. You can put cameras in the marker lights on the sides. I mean, you can get a full 360-degree system if you want. So, and a lot of people do that. It all depends. it's always fine to have whoever's with you hop out and help you back in, you know. And most of these campgrounds anymore, they're so nice and laid out. The spots are so easy to get in and out of that it's never really an issue anyway. But the camera system has become a big thing people do want.
Yeah. So this is the portion so we've got about 5 minutes left in this episode. This is the portion that I think is going to be the fun part to me.
All right.
Because when you're sitting around a campsite, and I thought about this, when you're sitting around a campsite, everybody talks about those hypotheticals, right? And it's always that good conversation. Not that it would ever happen, but it's always good to argue, not argue. And I got this from my son. He did a podcast, and him and his guy talked about who would win in a fight. And like they had a bison fighting a gator, or a gorilla fighting a grizzly bear. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of neat to kind of end up. So it's totally off the wall. Pick a number between 1 and 10.
6.
6. Okay. This is a good one. If time machines existed, if they existed, what would be the first thing you'd do?
What would be the first thing I'd do? And I can only go one direction, forwards or backwards?
Whatever you want.
Okay. I'd probably go into the future, 10 or 15 years, to see the world is, how things have worked out, you know, for people and for, you know, the people I know. And I think that would be more interesting. I mean, the past would be, there's things in the past I'd love to go back and redo.
Wouldn't we all?
But if I had a one-shot thing, I think I'd go into the future. I don't even know why I would go into the future. You know, a lot of people say hundreds of years, and I'd like to see, you know, 15, 20, 25 years out, kind of see where everybody is and how everybody's made out, and the younger kids are growing up, what they've become, and, you know, I think that's what I'd...
That'd kind of be scary sometimes, though, right? Like like if it was my answer would be, I think I would go into the future, about 5 or 6 years into the future, and see if they've found the cure for this COVID and bring it back, and we can end that stupid thing, right?
That would be,
you know,
it would, and that'll all work itself out, you know.
It will. It's Mother Nature, right? I mean. You know,
it'll be the last thing we got to go through, I'm sure. And,
no, it absolutely won't be the last thing. Yeah. But it kind of has. I mean, and I don't want to get talking too much about it, but it kind of put the brakes on a lot of things.
It did.
You know,
but it also opened people's mind up to a lot of new things.
Absolutely.
You know, we all get stuck in our lifestyle of we do this, and this. You know, and I think COVID forced everybody, because there were so many things they like to do they couldn't.
Right.
It forced all of us to open our eyes up and give some other things a try. And I think that's why, you know, camping has become so popular. And, you know, there's so many things out there that people are doing now that they might never have thought about giving a try that they fell in love with. So you just always try to look at the positive of everything. And, you know, if there's one good thing we've got out of this, it has pushed some people to branch out and, you know, explore the world a little bit.
Well, and that's a great point. You know, I love the fact that, you know, I've always been one, it doesn't look like I get out that much, but I like the outdoors, right? I like to eat too, by the way. But, you know, that is one thing. Positivity, right? That's the thing. Being positive about when life gives you lemons, what is it? You make lemonade, right? Yep. You know, and to look back and go, if COVID did one thing, it brought families closer together, right? And it got people outdoors. You know, the campgrounds are full nowadays. Yeah. You know, like you have to, if you're going to stay at a state park, you got a year. Yeah. You can book a reservations in a year and you're out. Yeah. So that's a great answer going into the future. I think there's some things I maybe go back in the past and bet on a game. That way I'm so rich, you know, bet on the game and then everybody set up, right? Not that I'm advocating gambling.
Everybody would want to go back into the past and redo some things they enjoyed and change some things they wish they would have done differently. But, you know, for me, I'm afraid if I went to the past, I would just mess things up. So at least in the future,
absolutely,
what's happeed, and I can't change. I can't mess anything up. So.
It's that butterfly effect, right? Yeah. If I change something back in the past, then I may not have my two kids that I adore. I mean, my wife, and I may end up with someone else.
Right.
I may have two other kids that I adore, but I'm not willing to take that bet. I'm not. That chance is not something I want to take. So that concludes the first episode. Once again, thanks for tuning in. So you stay classy, West Virginia.